Hey everyone, it's Sally, and today I'm going to show you some different ways that you can keep your watercolor tube paints in good condition. Do you have a tube of paint that looks like this? This is what you want your tube paints to look like. I'll show you some poor examples of what your paints might look like. Sometimes you get so much pressure built up in your paint tube that the lid breaks and pops off, and then your paint dries out. The good news is with watercolor paint, you can actually still use that paint that's left in there, and you can reconstitute that with water. So if you dig it out of there, or maybe you just want to put your wet brush in there, that works too. And then here's some very poor examples of how I've neglected my tubes of watercolor paint. And then this is very common when you get that paint gooping out the top, and then you can't get your lid off, and it's just kind of a downward spiral from there. And these are expensive tubes of paint. You're looking at about $25 a tube. Another thing I wanted to show you too is this is a little pair of scissors that I use to get my tubes of paint open. Sometimes you've got a tube of watercolor paint that the lid is just like stuck on there. And that happens because there's excess paint around here. It's dried and you can't get the lid off. So you can use these scissors, and if that fails, what you can do is just put your tube of paint upside down under some warm running water, or just let it sit in a glass of warm water, and that'll loosen the tube of paint. So I'm gonna go over how I take care of my paints, and hopefully that's gonna be of value to you, and you can do it with your paints as well. Okay, so here's my tubes of watercolor paint, and these are examples of well cared for tubes of paint. And these are examples of poorly cared for tubes of paint. So this one is a transparent pyrrole orange by Daniel Smith. So I can still use, I don't know if you can see, but there's still quite a bit of paint inside of here. And this is really a beautiful color. So I'm gonna keep that and put it in my palette, and I can still use it. But ideally, you don't want your paints to dry up. And how you do that, how you keep them from drying up, is you take care of them. So if you have a tube of paint that's got gunk all around here, just put it upside down in some warm water, and that'll dissolve that, or just run it under some warm water. The other thing that you can do too, and this is what I recommend, get yourself some unscented baby wipes. These are just wipes that I got at Walmart. And just before you put your lid back on your tube of paint, just take the baby wipe and clean up around the edge of your tube of paint. Now this one's pretty dirty. I may not be able to get all this paint off of here. And you can really clean off those little metal pieces where the top screws on too. So it's key that you try not to, when you first get a new tube of paint, it's kind of like a tube of toothpaste, right? You want to squeeze it to get the paint out. Sometimes when you're going to open the tube of paint for the very first time, what happens is you squeeze too hard on this part of it while you're trying to get the lid off, and then when you do get the lid off, it just comes squirting out faster than you want it to. So I recommend just holding this lightly. Don't squeeze it while you're trying to get the lid off. Easier said than done, right? So this is a very vibrant color, pyrrole red, and I'm just going to clean off the top of this so that I'm not going to get my paint lid popping off and then my expensive paint drying out. You don't want that. So Then this would be also a good opportunity for me to just take that lid. Sometimes, oh, that's way better now. Look at that. Sometimes the lid gets all gunked up with paint too, and you can just throw that into some water and get rid of all that paint. So I almost got this one perfectly clean. You could even just take your little paintbrush and you can just work away at that. So once you get in the habit of cleaning off your tubes of paint, you're not going to have to deal with this stuff anymore, because it's just going to become natural to you to take care of them. You can see the mess that this creates. I have a couple of different tubes of phthalo blue with some of my other colors, and phthalo blue is just a very hard color to get off of things. So that looks pretty good. I got the lid almost cleaned out, and I can put that right back on my clean tube of paint. And look at how nicely that lid goes on there now without any kind of resistance. And I'll just give that another wipe. And that's it. How to care for your tubes of paint so they don't dry out. Thanks for watching. Check out some of my other videos on different painting techniques if you like on my channel. Bye for now.